Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Living on Lemonade podcast. It has been a hot minute. I've been itching to get back to recording and have had to just go through the throes of basically two back-to-back colds. The day after the recent craft show that we had, I started getting a sore throat, and I kind of was going through the motions of just fatigue and started getting congested. Finally kicked it, I don't know, a few days later. It wasn't too bad. I think the worst part was just like the fatigue and all of that. So get over that. My sister's home, have a nice visit, and then basically as soon as she left, I started feeling under the weather again. So I don't know what's going on. I have a kind of feeling my body's purging some stuff, whatever. So yeah, between just family things and feeling under the weather, I have not had an opportunity to record. Yesterday was Monday. I was hoping to then, but I came off nights and just had a few things to do, and just was also just feeling super, super sleepy as part of night shift and recovering from this cold. Anywho, that's just a quick thing of what's been up for me lately since the last recording, because I think maybe last time I may have talked about the craft show coming up and getting ready for it. So now we're here. I just had a quick shower, starting my day, and I want to get this recorded quick and uploaded. I know it's Tuesday and I normally release on Mondays, but this is a topic I wanted to get out this week. Basically, on Friday, if you're listening to this like in time, sorry, I'm still a little congested, so I am hosting my annual intention setting workshop, and this year's a little bit different. I'm leaning in more, if you've been following me or as I've been talking about in episodes, leaning into the natural cycles of nature and celebrating the Sabbats, like the equinoxes, the solstices, and the in-betweens. There's one every like 6 weeks roughly. And so now this year's workshop is more through kind of that lens a little bit. It's leaning more into that route, which is really cool. It's different from other years. And the nice thing about that too, because I didn't do it near the calendar new year, which kind of feels, now that I've been leaning into the cycles of nature, kind of feels just not authentic, or what's the word? I don't know, like it just doesn't feel natural to be setting big goals and intentions when, like, at least in the northern hemisphere, the earth's still sleeping. Like, you know, there's snow on the ground in a lot of places and it's just cold and we're kind of in hibernation mode. It just feels like it goes against kind of the natural flow. So I decided that I was going to do it in the spring. And then as we got close to spring equinox, I think things were kind of a little bit off kilter for me. So I was like, it didn't work out right at spring equinox, which is almost a month ago. And then, I don't know, one day I got the aha moment of, why don't you do it the first new moon, the new moon in Aries. Aries is the beginning of the astrological year. It represents new beginnings, new energy. The first new moon after the spring equinox, because new moons represent like planting seeds and intentions, and if you are into manifesting, this is when you kind of set those intentions and then start to move forward in the actions to bring them to life, right? So that just felt natural for me. So that's this Friday, April 17th. I have 2 times, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time and 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, this is gross. I'm phlegmy, so I apologize. I'm trying to like manage it all and still be able to talk and just going through the motions a little bit. So thank you for your grace. I decided for 2 times to offer, just with different time zones, work schedules and such. And anyway, I wanted to basically, I was thinking about like, I want to talk about how this one is kind of set up without going through like the whole thing. And yeah, a little bit more of the details in more than just a written format. So I could have done like a live in the Living on Lemonade Facebook community or whatever, gone live on, recorded something and put it on my stories. But I thought, hey, I have a pretty great medium for doing audio and kind of visual, speaking. That's my podcast. So I thought, let's excuse me, let's record a little episode and get it out there ASAP so people who are interested can take a boo and then join us if they want. The other thing that I received within the last couple days, one sec, I just gotta take a quick drink. Is because I think with the format, and it's working out really nicely, because the other night I was working on the workbook and like, really, how is this laying out? And oftentimes when I teach, the information doesn't come to me until like the day of or like the hour before, and I sit down and I just kind of journal and brain dump. I go into meditation. I visually see in my mind's eye how that's going to look, and then I go for it, and they end up very powerful. But it's becoming more normal, but it's also been against my kind of Virgo nature of like wanting to be very, very prepared and organized. That's why I liked I was a good administrator, because I was very organized and on the ball with stuff. But I do have the outline. I have the flow of things. It all kind of came through that way. So this time it just felt, it felt necessary. And when the information's there and it can kind of flow out of you and you're able to organize it, that's the perfect timing. So I was very grateful that I have this kind of ahead and I can plan a little bit in terms of speaking about it, right, and articulating it. So I wanted to be able to come on and explain it a little bit, just outside of written content. So Friday, we're getting together 2 times. The investment is $33 Canadian. Message me on socials, however we normally chat. If we haven't yet, I'll have the links to find me in the show notes. What I wanted to say before, and I kind of diverted, was because this is based around kind of natural cycles and just intention settings for the season that you're in. One of the things we're going to talk about is like, what personal season are you in right now? Are you in a winter? Are you in a spring? Are you in a summer or a fall? And we're going to talk about what those mean and what that looks like, so that you can kind of resonate and start to connect with your own kind of natural flow and where you are. Because in this kind of capitalist patriarchal paradigm, we're expected to be in a summer all the time and constantly like output and hustling, and a lot of this stuff is rooted in worthiness and all that thing, but that's a whole other topic for another day. And what I really want to encourage, and where my work is moving, is empowering people and giving the information and the tools so that we can connect back with our own nature, the nature within us, and honoring that and observing it and understanding it and moving through with it and not working against our own nature, because that's when we burn out and we get sick. And I've always had a few alternative views just because that's what was normal when I was growing up. So taking those parts, but also I'm also interested in modern medicine. So combining the things and then delivering it in a way that is natural and authentic to me. Sorry, one sec again. I hope this doesn't happen too often, but I gotta get this message out because I have a few things that I have to do today, so this is my time to sit down. So let's just dive in, because I really wanted this to be kind of a quick episode, and I always say that and then it's not. We are going to start with, as I do in like the new moon and full moon circles, we talk about the symbology of the current like sign that the moon is in, right? So this is Aries. We're going to talk about Aries. We're going to go over the new moon again, spring, equinox, and season. So we're going to go into some of that symbology. And first, we'll ground in as I always do when I lead something. There's a few other kind of little ritual, if you want to call it that, techniques, meditation, visualization, things that we're going to do throughout the 2 hours together. And this will allow us, this is my way of teaching and leading others through just connecting with yourself in those deeper parts, that soul space, that intuition, so that when your intuition is speaking to you in the everyday, you can kind of start to hear it. If you haven't previously, or if you do, it helps to strengthen that muscle of picking up on those little nudges, those action steps that are often muffled or muted due to the hustle and bustle of the everyday. When we're deep in our minds, we're not connected to that that inner voice, because it's quieter than the ego and the monkey mind. So we're going to be talking about ways to, through the subject matter that I'll lead through, we will take pauses and do kind of connection, visualization, a little bit of meditation, all mixed in, as well as there's some journaling prompts or just pondering, and then just kind of, if you don't want to go into a full flow, like you'd rather do that on the replay, which they will be recorded, even just bringing a journal, bring some water, bring your pen, get comfy, and just jotting down some quick notes that have come up during the topics, the subject matter, and then the more integrative kind of somatic stuff, where we kind of get into our bodies and allow that space for our intuition, that higher self, whatever you want to call it, to kind of speak, and then reflecting on that and just kind of moving through. So couple subject matter. Again, I'm not going to go through like everything. I just want to give you an overview. But we're going to talk about anchoring into our values, because that becomes the compass of how we walk through our life and how we make decisions. And when the outside world gets loud, our values are what we come back to in order to kind of ground in, and then take pause and go, does this serve, is this thing that, and especially if it feels like a should, we'll go through like yes and no's in the body, connecting back so that we're not getting ourselves off track by external noise. We have this kind of foundation and solid thing to come back to always check in with ourselves, to say like, if I were to do this, would this serve the vision and the intention that I have and the values that it's based on? And if the answer is no, then don't do the thing, right? We're going to talk about different areas of life for focus, the wheel of life, be it financial, physical, spiritual, recreational, things like that. There's also, if you sign up before Thursday and you send me, if you want me to look at your birth chart to where Aries is and which house, where you are most influenced for this new moon and intention setting, you can kind of work with that. I would need your birth date, full birth date, like date, month, year, the time, and the location, and then that gives like basically where all the signs were in, like what the cosmos were at the moment of your birth, and kind of, anyway, it's a whole thing. But for those who sign up before like Thursday at say noon Eastern, I'll have a chance to look up your birth chart and kind of give you a little bit of bonus insights. We're going to talk about mindset and limiting beliefs, and when we have desires, why we self-sabotage, and just getting curious about that, because there's always like a fear, a belief. There's always a belief of why we can't have it, and then when it's tied to our identity, we always protect the identity. So that's a whole thing. But we're going to go into that a little bit, because this is very different from just this like, lay the intentions or your New Year's resolutions and then like kind of expect it to come through. Like, we really have to get grounded in the reality of why we haven't created already if it's been something we've wanted for a long time, right? So we have to look at both the shadow and the light and how to integrate the shadow so that we can project more light and do the things and bring these things forward. Or just what's coming up for me right now is it's more about it's more than just saying like, I want this and these are the steps to getting it, in terms of like, say, more like material things or lifestyle. But it's just give me 1 second. There's kind of those like big things that we want, and rooting into that, and then knowing kind of the first steps to take. But there's also leaning into those smaller steps and making it part of our lifestyle. Because when we do those small things, like my spiritual coach Marley says, it's like 1 millimeter shifts over a long period of time change the entire trajectory. It changes who you are, your identity, and how you show up in the world, which makes you available for different things. So I'll give a couple examples. I just want to kind of get through. We will do a word or symbol of the year or the season of life, our declaration of our wants. There's going to be some journal time, higher self habits, self-care, and hygiene. And by hygiene, I mean more than just personal hygiene. I mean emotional, mental, spiritual hygiene as well. And that all kind of, I like the word hygiene, I think, more than self-care, just because self-care is such a buzzword and it's like bubble baths and massages, but it's so much more than that. And so yeah, I think I like the word hygiene more. So we're going to talk about those types of things and really showing up for ourselves every day and having those things that help to maintain. So I think that I'll let that be a segue to going into just a couple examples so that it's a little bit more tangible, because I like real life examples of like, oh, that's what that looks like in life, in embodiment. And so I just have to pause for a moment because I need to blow my nose. Just give me 1 sec. Okay, sorry about that. My nose was trying to run. I was like, okay, I just need a minute. Okay, so in my life, I'll give you a couple examples of how this is playing out in my current season and kind of how I'm building my intentions and what those little action steps look like in my daily life, and how it's going to move me forward towards a greater vision and desire. So the small things shifting. I think about it in a visual sense. You think about like a plane that's flying long distance. It has to have a compass bearing. So say it's leaving Toronto and going to like South America. It's going to have a compass bearing that's going to take it where it needs to go. However, if you were to change the compass bearing 1 or 2 degrees for that length of distance, it's going to end up in an entirely different place. So that's how I like to explain these like 1 millimeter shifts that Marley talks about. And these are the 1 millimeter shifts that I am creating in my life and being intentional about it, my intention set, but also maintaining and coming back to those intentions to help lead me in my everyday life. So for example, my greater desire, and let this be a declaration, I would like to mentor and coach others, especially through difficult seasons. As if you've been listening to this podcast for any great length, especially the earlier episodes, it really started as a grief podcast and how I've navigated it through the years. And then other just, what I'm learning through life of just being mindful and observing my own mindful practice. In order to do that, and I learned this through Marley, we have to be in charge of our own vessel, our own physical, mental, emotional self in order to be able to lead others, right? Otherwise we're not leading through, we're not walking our own talk. So I've had to confront myself on that so that I am truly showing up and leading from a place of my own embodiment of what I'm teaching. So I gotta be accountable to it. And I feel like there's things I kind of need to clean up and strengthen. And I know I'm on like the edge of just being ready to kind of launch it. And there will be, if you're signed up for the Friday ones, there's going to be some things coming out that I am launching. So I'm there. Anyway, a very small thing. So I've been really also leaning into basic necessities, because how we treat our body, how we support our mind and our emotional being prepares us. Not only does it build resilience, but it prepares us to essentially, I want to articulate this as being resourced physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in all those ways, right? When we are resourced, we can serve from abundance, from overflow. And that's the vibe that I want to have when I'm serving others and, helping them navigate difficult times. So in order to do that, I need to check in with the question that I've been asking myself every day, because I'm the type of person where I wake up and I'm already I've hit the ground running, and I'm already thinking about all my to-do list that I was thinking about last night before I went to sleep, and I'm ready to action the things. And then I run myself down and, have my bouts of exhaustion and stuff. So that's not going to serve me as a mentor and coach for others. It's not going to serve me. It's not going to serve the people that I'm serving and helping and guiding, because I'm not showing up as my best self. So the question that I ask myself every morning, especially when I'm feeling this, I need to get going, I have shit to do today, is, am I resourced? I take a pause for a moment. Am I resourced? Okay, the first thing I do when I get up is go pee. That's just what I was taught. First and last thing I do we do every day when growing up. So yeah, that helps my body, just whatever. But so listening to those signals, right? If your bladder's full, you go and do that thing. It also creates some safety, because then it's there's a trust thing. But anyway, also another topic. Have I drank any water yet today? I have my water bottle on my bedside table, and I've been mindful to, a lot of the time, before I even get out of bed, I sit up in my bed, I grab my water bottle, and I take a big glug, because I haven't had water in, 8 hours or whatever it's been since I went to bed. So immediately resourcing myself to start the day. That also looks like, along with water, we need nutrition, we need nourishment for our physical, right? So that, to me, if you're watching the YouTube channel, you see my protein shake. Even if, say, because when I initially wake up, I'm not necessarily hungry right away, but if I know that I've got stuff on the go, I got to pop into my car and go run some errands, I at least make it and I bring it with me. So I've taken a couple glugs of it before I started the podcast episode, but it's sitting right beside me. It's ready to go. And I'll take more once I finish recording and I'm editing and stuff. But having the things that will resource me for the day. So that's my physical in terms of eating and drinking. And then I look at, okay, what has my movement been like lately? Not great, because I've been feeling under the weather and I felt more pulled to rest and just gentle. I maybe could have gone for short walks, but there were days that I couldn't. I was so exhausted. There was one day I had to run errands because I was getting ready to host my mom's birthday party, and we had about 15 people over. So I had to go out and be in the world and do the things, and it absolutely exhausted me. So there was a time when I look back over the last couple of weeks, I haven't been moving my body the way that I like to. The other thing is the pool that I normally swim at is now closed for renovation, so I need to seek out other opportunities instead of just saying, well, I guess I'll go back to swimming in the fall. I did look a couple options, so I need to get back in the pool because that's the way I like to move. We're also now on a little bit of break from weekly volleyball. That'll start back up in May next month. So what my intentions is to move my body regularly and to serve it that way. It helps me process things, and it also, I'm working through some stuff. So how am I going to fulfill those intentions? Well, I need to decide on another pool and either get a membership or whatever that looks like and start going. Volleyball, I just have to wait for it to start again. But in place of that, do I start going for walks regularly after day shifts and before night shift and in between night shift like I was doing before? I generally my walk season is kind of in the nicer weather, spring and fall a lot, because it's a little bit cooler. It's not like 30 degrees and super hot, but I will do some in the summer. So checking in with myself of what does this intention that I have about moving my body, what does that look like for the season that I'm in, the environment outside, and what will best serve me in my intention. I'm trying to remember if I feel like there was another example I wanted to give, but it's kind of slipped my mind. Thankfully, this has expanded nicely. And then we look at mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So having tools in place to support me that way. I'm in Katie J's somatic circle, so having a regular somatic practice of tension and trauma releasing exercise, which helps to release tension and trauma, ways to communicate with my body. It helps my body, but also emotional and mental health and breath work, having those tools in place and prioritizing them into my schedule, because this greater desire of showing up powerfully and strong and powerfully as a mentor and a coach, I have to embody that first. So how does that look? And that's my day-to-day. These are the things that I'm checking in on myself for and holding myself accountable to. So I think I want to kind of end off on that note, because I feel like this is already a longer episode than I intended, as always. But I hope that gives you a solid understanding of what this workshop is going to be like. And I think I kept getting diverted, but this workshop, it will be recorded, so you can listen to it on repeat. You can come back to it as you go through. I think I'll probably offer it annually. We'll see. We'll see how things are looking next year. But the beauty that I started to talk about earlier is it can be, especially with the intention and tapping into kind of the energy of the cosmos at the time. I know that sounds witchy-woo, and that's okay if it doesn't resonate with you. As always with my stuff, take what you want, leave the rest. But having done it at this time with this intention and this energy, it's almost like a portal that will carry through. So it's still tapping into that time going forward. So a long way to say that my intention is to make this available as an evergreen offering, which means that I can sell it at any time. The workbook, so that people can do it any time of the year, because it's really more around the season of life you're in, and what you want to create next has nothing to do with the calendar new year. So you don't have to do it, or even we don't have to do it at the spring equinox, right? It's something we're doing to kind of embrace those energies. But later on, I encourage the people that are present and receive this training and sign up to come back to the training maybe quarterly or yearly to check in with themselves. We have to like anchor back in every once in a while and just take inventory. So over the last 3 years, I do have someone that has signed up every year, and I'm sure they get something different every time. So yeah, that's my spiel. I know it was long-winded. I'm not, I'm a person of many words, it seems. But yeah, I hope that explains things and gives you a bit of the essence of what we're creating on Friday. If you're interested and want to sign up, let me know. It's $33 Canadian, like I said. 2 time slots, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. They will be recorded and sent out afterwards. So I'll need your email and stuff like that, of course. But yeah, any questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to chat and just kind of expand on anything I may have not gone fully into, although that almost almost feels impossible because I've been blabbing. But I know there's probably things that I don't always articulate it as well as I intend to. So if there's any questions, throw them my way, and I'm happy to chit chat. And yeah, I'm excited for Friday. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to put this out into the world and continue to offer it as like people can buy it anytime and keep going back to it and working through the journaling prompts and the reflections and the introspection. So it's going to be amazing. I highly recommend it to anyone. Whether you have big goals or you just want to feel better. Like it can just be like the smallest thing. You just want to like feel better in your daily life. Getting honest about that and kind of diving in that way is how we move towards those things. So it doesn't have to be like these big goals and dreams. It can literally be like the smallest thing of like, I just want to feel better in daily life. I want to feel happier, healthier, more wholesome. It can be as simple as that, and we'll dive into how that looks for you individually, and it's going to be beautiful. So I can't wait. I hope to see you there, either live or through the recording or down the road if this isn't the right time. I do see the price going up just because of what's all packed in. So this is, I do believe that this will probably be the cheapest that it ever will be. Going forward, it's going up, probably not by a lot, but if you want to save a few bucks, this will be the cheapest way. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm sending you all hugs, and hopefully I can record again soon and get back into the routine of things. So take care, and we'll talk soon, everyone. Bye.